I never thought my quiet suburban life would turn into a full-blown nightmare, but it did. It all started when Karen's son plowed his Mustang straight through my fence and then tried to pin the blame on me. Their excuse? They claimed my fence was illegally placed. The truth? The only thing that got corrected that morning was the tow truck hauling his wreck away while Karen cried foul to the cops. But let me take you back to how it really began. The sound that woke me wasn't an alarm, it was a crunch. Sharp, violent, final. I was out of bed before I even realized it. Sam, half awake beside me, held her phone in the glow of 5:17 a.m. I yanked open the blinds and froze. Where my cedar fence had stood for years, there was now a silver Mustang, crushed at the front, its engine ticking in the cold morning air. The street was eerily silent. No traffic. No neighbors. Just wood scattered like bones across the yard. Cole? What happened? Sam's voice was tight, already alert. We've got ourselves a new lawn ornament, I muttered, forcing calm. Panic wouldn't solve anything. From the driver's side, a figure stumbled out. Tall, lanky, familiar. Of course it was Brad Dawson, Karen's son. The local headache. The kid who'd been nothing but trouble since day one. Brad wobbled, phone in hand, pretending to make sense of the wreck. I turned to Sam. Call 911. Report a single vehicle crash. Property damage. Driver looks impaired. Just the facts. She was already on it, pulling up the door camera feed too. That's how we worked. I handled what I could see. She handled what I couldn't. I slipped on my boots and stepped outside. The air carried the sharp tang of burnt rubber mixed with something sweet and chemical cheap air freshener, maybe. Brad leaned against his car, eyes wide, unfocused. Hey man, he mumbled. Crazy, right? Your fence just came out of nowhere. I didn't bother answering. The skid marks carved into the asphalt told the story. He'd taken the corner too fast and lost control. My fence had paid the price. Before I could speak, the real storm arrived. Karen Dawson, queen of the HOA, swept down the street in her silk robe, looking like a discount supervillain. She didn't check on her son. She didn't look at the wreck. She went straight for me. Maddox. What did you do? I folded my arms. Morning, Karen. Your boy just test drove my fence. It's a trap fence. She shrieked. Too close to the road. My Bradley could have been killed. He's standing just fine, I said flatly. My fence isn't. Sam's voice chimed from the window, cheerful as ever. Already handled. Karen. And you're on camera door cam, driveway cam, even Mike's ring cam. Karen froze for a split second, caught off script, then snapped back to her role. You'll replace every board today, or I'll fine you daily. Sure, I said, calm. Right after your son rebuilds my fence himself. Sam laughed from inside. Bradley, wave to the cloud. This is all being uploaded. From the hedge, our neighbor Mike called out, Morning. Karen bristled. You can't record me without my consent. The street's public property, I told her. Your robe? That's your choice. She clutched it tighter, seething. When the flashing lights finally arrived, a police cruiser pulled up, lights on, siren off. The officer scanned the scene. Wrecked car, broken fence, skid marks, furious HOA queen. And me. Karen rushed him instantly. Officer, thank goodness. This man set up an illegal trap fence. It attacked my son's car. I want him cited. I want him to pay for damages and emotional distress. The officer just blinked slowly, clearly unimpressed. Sir, this your property? That's right, I said, turning to Brad. He asked, and you are? Brad Dawson, the kid muttered, eyes locked on the pavement. The cop stepped closer, sniffing the air. Son, have you been drinking tonight? No, sir, Brad replied too quickly. The officer's jaw tightened. I'm going to need you to step to my cruiser. We'll run a few tests. Brad fumbled in his pocket, pulling out a strip of mint foil. Don't put anything in your mouth, the officer barked. Karen swooped in with a water bottle. Hydrate, sweetheart. The officer raised a hand. Ma'am, do not interfere again. The sobriety test was a train wreck, literally. Brad couldn't walk a straight line, couldn't touch his nose, couldn't even balance. And while that circus was happening, a second officer circled the Mustang, flashlight in hand. He popped the passenger door and leaned in. Moments later, he emerged with a small blue canister. Found this on the floorboard, nitrous oxide, along with used whippets. Brad's face went pale. Karen's went red. The first officer didn't hesitate. He cuffed Brad and read off probable cause for DUI. As they led him away, the second cop called out again. We've got another item. This time, it wasn't just contraband, it was a cheap black burner phone. The kind you use when you don't want calls traced. They bagged it as evidence, exchanged a glance, and said the words that changed everything. We'll get a warrant, Karen screamed. But the story she was trying to spin was gone. The wreck, the drugs, the burner phone, they spoke louder than she ever could. The tow truck arrived, its amber lights painting the street in flickering shadows. As the Mustang was hauled away, the neighborhood finally fell silent. Sam joined me on the porch with a steaming mug of coffee. We both stared at the gaping hole where our fence had been. This isn't over, I muttered. Insurance will fight and detectives will dig into that phone. Sam nodded, her voice steady. The cameras caught everything. The Mustang flew into that corner. It wasn't the fence. I managed a small smile. She was right. And deep down, I knew. This was just the beginning. That's my girl, always 3 steps ahead. As I looked down the street, I noticed curtains shifting, neighbors peeking out from behind their blinds. The silent audience to our morning chaos. Karen's not going to drop this, I muttered. It's not about the fence. It's about her reputation. Her perfect son, her perfect neighborhood, and now his arrest. She come after us. HOA fines, made-up violations, you name it. Grass an inch too long. Trash bin left out too late. She'll weaponize everything. Sam's jaw tightened. Let her try. We've got the truth. We've got video. Video's a start, I said. But we need more. The burner phone. What caught the cop's attention? Why was he carrying it? Sam rewound the footage. Silver blur, crash, aftermath. He wasn't just out for a joyride, she murmured. Her finger traced the Mustang's path across the screen. He was racing. Look at those rims, that spoiler, they weren't for show. A thought clicked in my mind. That burner phone? What if it wasn't just to hide calls from his mom? What if it was used to coordinate something? Sam's eyes lit with realization. Like a street race. A private line. Drivers only. Untraceable. And suddenly, it all made sense. This wasn't just one reckless kid making a stupid mistake. This was organized. Which meant there were others. Other drivers. Other cars. And if they were racing in our neighborhood, this crash wasn't some random accident. It was bound to happen. We needed a bigger picture than our doorbell cam could provide. How many delivery trucks come through here every day? I asked. Sam pulled up our Amazon history. We had a package yesterday. Prime van. And they've all got dash cams, right? Full coverage for insurance. Exactly, I said. And most drivers stick to the same routes. If we can find who it was, maybe his camera caught something. Sam got to work. She tracked down the delivery window and cross-referenced it with posts in the neighborhood social groups. People complain about everything online: missed packages, pictures of boxes, you name it. Within an hour, she had a name. Marcus, a regular driver on our route. She crafted a polite message, careful not to tip our hand. No mention of street racing. No mention of the Dawsons. Just concerned homeowners trying to understand the accident. She even offered him $100 for his time. While Sam worked her digital magic, I stepped outside to inspect the wreckage again. That's when Mike, our retired neighbor and part-time comedian, poked his head over the hedge. "Morning. Cole," he said, eyes wide at the mess. "Heard the ruckus. Everything okay?" "Just another quiet morning in the suburbs," I replied, prying a chunk of Mustang grill out of my fence. He shook his head. "Saw the whole thing online. Karen's telling everyone your fence jumped into the road." I deadpanned. "Yeah, aggressive fence. New breed. Very territorial." Mike blinked, processing, then shrugged. "Huh, learn something new every day." And with that, he went back to trimming his hedge dot. By afternoon, Marcus agreed to meet. One coffee later, he showed us his van's dash cam footage. There it was clear as daylight. At 10 p.m., the silver Mustang, a black Honda, a blue Subaru. Teenagers gathered, phones out, waiting for the race to start. On Marcus's next loop, the cars launched, engines screaming. Sam grabbed the file, and Marcus even signed a statement. His company sent us a certified copy for court. "They treat this place like a racetrack," he muttered. The thumb drive felt heavier than it should have. Because now we weren't just dealing with Karen's spoiled son, we were looking at an entire underground racing crew, and the burner phone? Its pings led straight to the community clubhouse. Their meeting spot. Their hideout. A week later, Karen made her move. A thick envelope from the HOA landed in our mailbox. "She's weaponizing the HOA," I said, tearing it open, "but she didn't just mail it." No. Karen marched right up to my curb and stapled a fluorescent warning notice directly to my mailbox. Like she was the sheriff in some low-budget western. "Tampering with federal property is bold," I said dryly. "So is ugliness," she snapped, hammering the stapler again. "Expect daily fines until your eyesore is corrected." And I've already alerted the community forum. Our phones buzzed. Her post was live, public safety alert. Certain residents encourage chaos by keeping dangerous, non-compliant structures. Please report. Of course. She'd carefully cropped the photo to hide the Mustang-shaped hole in my fence. Sam's fingers flew across the keyboard. Time to respond with facts. She uploaded the crash footage and added a poll. Did the fence jump? No, also no. Within minutes, the votes were unanimous. Neighbors piled on with jokes. Mike even commented, "Aggressive fence remains domesticated." Karen, predictably, lost it. 16 exclamation points in a rant about community values. Sam calmly pinned the police report number right under her comment, like a name tag. That Thursday, the HOA meeting convened at the clubhouse, the very place we now suspected doubled as the racers' headquarters. The room smelled like stale coffee, walls painted beige, folding chairs scattered like an afterthought. About 20 neighbors sat waiting, half bored, just wanting the meeting to end. At the head table, Karen looked completely in her element. Flanked by her 2 loyal board members, nodding like bobbleheads, she ran through the usual agenda: budgets, landscaping, mailbox paint colors. Then her eyes locked on me. A thin, cruel smile tugged at her lips. "Finally," she said, her voice dripping with false authority. "We must address a serious issue of property neglect. Mr. Cole Maddox of 112 Oak Street has allowed his property to fall into disrepair, creating an eyesore and a hazard for the entire community," the room murmured. Karen had drawn her line in the sand, and I knew. This was just the opening move. People shifted in their seats to get a better look. I stayed calm, palms flat on a manila folder in my lap, eyes steady. As you know, Karen continued, putting on her courthouse voice, our covenants are clear. They protect property values and our community's appeal. We can't allow one homeowner's negligence to threaten that. Therefore, the board has issued fines totaling $1,750 and demands immediate remediation. She turned to me, nails sharp with anticipation. Mr. Maddox, do you have anything to say before we ratify these fines? This was her moment public shaming in front of the neighborhood. She wanted me to blow up, to be the angry troublemaker. Instead, I stood slowly and spoke, calm and measured. Yes, Karen. Thank you. I tapped the folder. First, my fence was not neglected. It was destroyed at 5 a.m. when your son, Brad Dawson, drove his car through it while impaired by nitrous oxide. Here's the police report. I slid a copy across the table. Her smile thinned. Second, I continued, about the fines for failure to repair. I have a signed contract with the fence company. They're ready to start as soon as your insurance approves payment. I can't fix a fence with money. I don't have money your insurance is responsible for. I laid down the claim and my emails with the adjuster. The room shifted. Board members who'd been bored now leaned in. Neighbors who'd been scrolling on their phones stopped. The atmosphere changed, attention focused. Third, I said, pulling out another packet. The alleged screw pattern violation. I put the city permit and inspection report on the table signed and approved 3 years ago. Then I added the original HOA approval form for the fence signed by Karen herself. The document stacked up like receipts. Her face moved from smug to pale to a furious red. This isn't about screws or paint, I told the room, turning to the homeowners. This is retaliation. Mrs. Dawson is using HOA rules and funds to punish my family because her son was arrested on my property for reckless behavior. That's an abuse of power, an attempt to weaponize our community to cover your family's mess. I let that land. The silence felt heavy until one board member cleared his throat. Karen, is this true? He asked, voice small. Karen opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. She had counted on the script, the performance. She'd never expected someone to show up with receipts. A ripple of people started to speak up. A complaint about a near miss with a stroller. An older neighbor muttering he'd heard engines that night. A teen's half laugh about Brad's car sounding like a yappy lawnmower. Even Karen's loyalists looked over the papers, visibly uncomfortable. George, the accountant, pushed his glasses up. Madam President, the documents are substantial. Someone moved to table Karen's motion and another seconded it. The tension broke like a snapped wire. From the back, Mike leaned forward and, loud enough for half the room to hear, whispered with a grin, "So I guess the fence didn't jump out at him after all." A few neighbors snickered. The room exhaled. Karen's authority, so carefully curated, had cracked. We'd won the skirmish. The board voted to postpone the fines indefinitely. Karen sat there, exposed and furious, eyes scanning the room for all eyes who weren't there. But victory at the HOA meeting was only temporary. Karen was wounded, not defeated. A cornered person becomes dangerous. She still held the presidency and the capacity to make life difficult. Sam and I both knew we couldn't just wait for her next move. We had to get proactive. Detective Miller later told us the burner phone's pings clustered around the clubhouse between midnight and 3 o'clock. A.M. Strong lead, he said. But we need visual confirmation. We needed to see what happened without being seen. That means a spy in the sky. I said that night, plotting with Sam over our kitchen table. Something small, quiet, and that can see in the dark. Sam's fingers were already on the keys. High-resolution night vision drone. Thermal cam. Quiet motor. I can have one by tomorrow. I grinned. Living in the future had its perks. The next day we picked up a rental sleek. black and much quieter than I imagined. We spent the afternoon learning controls, testing hover stability, and peeking at the thermal feed. The thermal camera changed the game. Heat signatures cut through darkness, revealing what normal cameras miss. We practiced flying it around the yard until both of us felt confident. That night, as the neighborhood lights went off and the clubhouse fell silent, we were ready to see what else the dark was hiding. The thermal feed was the difference between guessing and knowing. Heat signatures glowed like ghosts on the screen. Cars, bodies, engines, even in total black. That night we waited, trying to act casual, but the air in the house hummed with tension. Around 11:30 p.m. we moved into my office. Sam turned her laptop into mission control and I took the pilot seat. "Operation Night Owl is a go," I whispered, partly to steady myself. I launched the drone from the back deck and kept it low, legal and honest, under 400 feet. Strobe on and only filming the parking lot. No windows. No trespass. Just the lot. At first it looked like a bust. Empty lot, cooling asphalt, only little thermal blips of raccoons and cats. "Maybe we were wrong," Sam sighed. "Maybe it was a one-off." We waited. An hour crawled by. Then, at 12:45 a.m., headlights cut the dark. One car, then another, slipping into the far corner away from the street lamps. The thermal screen lit up, bright white engine blocks, bodies in orange and pale 5 modified cars hushed in the shadows. The drone was so clear we could watch drivers step out, their heat signatures arranging into a tight little circle, comfortable, confident. This was their spot. One of them approached a side door, supposed to be locked, staff only. He fiddled, and it swung open. They filed inside. Sam whispered, "They have a key." My stomach dropped. Who had keys to every lock in the community? I didn't need to say it aloud. We both knew. Everything snapped into focus. Karen wasn't just looking the other way. She'd handed them sanctuary. The clubhouse was their garage, their planning room, the place they tuned engines and swapped parts under HOA cover. They set up laptops and toolboxes in the parking lot, hunched over open hoods, swapping components, like a shop tucked behind a curtain of beige siding. We recorded hours of footage, high-res night vision and thermal. The plates, the faces, the way Brad stood there, cocky under the moonlight, all of it. This was more than kids horsing around. This was trespass, conspiracy, and a massive liability for our HOA. When the drone ran low on battery and I guided it home, something cold settled on me. The broken fence was only the opening scene. Karen had compromised our safety to protect her son. She'd lied and enabled an operation on community property. We had the proof, but proof alone doesn't always cut through bureaucracy. "We need more than this," Sam said. "We need to catch them doing the illegal part, the racing. Videos of kids hanging out don't always force action." We needed to link the clubhouse meetings directly to the street races. "That means bait," I said. "We have to give them a reason to move parts or meet where we can document the transfer, something that proves intent." Sam's grin went cold and efficient. "Then we become the seller." She dove into work building a digital persona. Drift King 77, a private seller of hard-to-find JDM parts. The profile looked real, a shadowed turbocharger for an avatar, bio that read like someone who'd scraped together a project car, and listings for parts that would sing to any tuner, specific, tempting, and just cheap enough to bait a risk-taker. We picked parts we knew would attract them, a high-flow injector kit for a WRX, the kind of thing that a racer would grab in a heartbeat. Sam geotagged posts, posted on the right forums and marketplaces, and waited 2 days of tumbleweed. On night 3, the hook caught. A message pinged. "Subio2, short, all caps slang. Yo, You still got the injectors? Cash ready. Sam played the part masterfully. Urgency, limited availability, small discount if they met tonight. Subio 2-bit. $400 cash. Meet at 10 p.m., Home Depot off Route 9. Well lit, plenty of witnesses. Easy exit routes for police. If it came to that dot, we weren't cops. We were two neighbors running a sting of our own, careful, legal, and utterly determined to catch the racing crew with their hands on the parts that made the cars faster, and therefore made the races more than just mischief. We knew this was bigger than us now. If we tried to handle it alone, we'd either get ignored or wind up and over our heads. It was time to bring in law enforcement, but the right way. Walking into a precinct with some story about a fake fuel injector sale wasn't going to cut it. I dug deeper, found the county's traffic enforcement division, and dialed a number most people don't even know exists. Not the dispatcher, too much noise there. The administrative line. After 2 transfers, a steady voice finally picked up. Detective Miller. I laid it out piece by piece. The crash. The original police report. Brad Dawson's arrest. The delivery van's dashcam footage showing the organized race. Then the drone recordings, unauthorized access to the clubhouse, the late-night gatherings. And finally, our bait operation with the injectors. Silence on the line. I thought maybe I'd pushed it too far. Then Miller spoke. Mr. Maddox, you and your wife have done more work than some of my rookies. We've had whispers about this crew for months, but they're slippery. Always moving, always switching phones. You've given us something we can act on. I told him about the 10 p.m. meet at the Home Depot on Route 9. His voice went sharp. Do not go. My team will handle it. Your seller doesn't show. They wait around. We move in. Send me everything you've got, videos, messages, the works. Sam was already uploading the folder. She leaned toward the phone. Link and password coming your way, detective. He almost sounded impressed. You two are something else. We'll have units in place by 9:30. Stay home. Stay safe. We hung up, adrenaline humming through our veins. The waiting that followed was torture. Lights off, a movie running just to fill the silence. Phones on the coffee table like loaded weapons. At 10:15 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Miller. Blue Subaru on scene. Watching. 20 minutes later, Honda, silver Mustang. Group forming. Same Mustang, new plate. These kids swap tags like jerseys, he said. Moving in 5. Sam and I stared at each other, silent in the dark. We'd started something that was now out of our hands. The quiet in the house was suffocating. Every creak, every rustle outside felt like a warning. Hours dragged. At nearly 1 a.m., the phone lit up again. I answered on speaker. It's done, Miller said, his voice tired but satisfied. Everyone's in custody. Sam exhaled so hard I thought she might collapse. I just sat there, waiting for the details. Your setup worked perfectly. Cars showed, kids got out, started circling for their phantom seller. My guys boxed the lot with 2 vans. They scattered, but it didn't matter. On foot, they didn't stand a chance. One kid tried to hide in a rack of tiki torches in the Home Depot garden section. Didn't work. I could almost see it, the panic, the sudden collapse of their confidence. And Brad Dawson? I asked. Oh, he was there, Miller said. Didn't even try to run. Tried to spin some story about buying a video game at 10 p.m. in a dark parking lot. Hard to sell that one. Mommy wasn't there to clean it up this time. Relief hit me like a wave. Weeks of stress finally cracking open. The cars are impounded, Miller continued. Kids are headed downtown. Parents will be getting midnight wake-up calls. Charges will stick conspiracy to race, maybe reckless endangerment. One gets resisting arrest. And the cars? We'll tear through them. VIN's mods, stolen parts, this isn't the end for them. His tone softened. You two did the right thing. You made your neighborhood safer tonight. Sleep on that. And then he hung up. Sam and I sat in silence, the reality settling in. We'd done it. The late-night engines, the clubhouse gatherings, the constant tension, it was finally over. But the chill in my stomach wouldn't fade, because Brad Dawson was in custody again. And his mother, Karen the HOA president, was about to find out who had handed her world to the cops on a silver platter. Her fight wasn't over. If anything, it was just beginning. When the police woke Karen in the middle of the night, the pieces fell into place for her pretty fast. The no-show seller, the suddenly timed raid. She'd know who had tipped the scales. Her campaign of fines had collapsed, and her son's secret life was exposed. But winning one round didn't mean she'd accept defeat. A woman like Karen doesn't quit, she claws back. The sting was a victory, yes, but it felt like one battle in a much longer war. The next morning, Detective Miller called with bad news for the kids, and worse news for Karen. We're finding things that point to organized crime, he said. The blue Subaru's plates traced back to a minivan registered in another state. The Honda had a plate belonging to a pickup truck reported stolen 2 months earlier. These weren't sloppy kids. This was a coordinated operation using stolen plates to hide their tracks. During the inventory at the impound, officers pulled a commercial key out of the Subaru's glove box tagged 317. That led to a storage unit warrant. I remember holding my breath as Miller described the hit. Unit 317, rented 2 months ago in cash under a fake name. When they opened the door, it wasn't kid junk. It was a fully equipped workshop tool chests crammed with high-end gear, boxed car stereos with scratched serials, stacks of license plates from 10 different states. It was a stash house. And then Miller told us about the ledger. A small black notebook listing race dates, locations, wagers, sales of stolen stereos, line after line of transactions. Brad's handwriting was all over it. He'd been keeping the books. That detail flipped the case from neighborhood nuisance to criminal enterprise, conspiracy, possession of stolen property, grand larceny. Felony charges replaced misdemeanors overnight. Word spread fast. The HOA called an emergency meeting, and this time the community's verdict was brutal. Karen was voted out as president in a unanimous no-confidence vote. Her 2 closest allies resigned. George, the quiet accountant, was made interim president. He promised a full financial audit and to change every lock on community property. Karen's reputation collapsed. Her pedestal was gone. For Sam and me, the focus shifted to justice and making the HOA whole. The DA's office took the case seriously. A young prosecutor, Miss Davies, met with us and walked through Sam's file like a surgeon. I've been doing this 10 years, she said, scanning the evidence, and I've rarely seen a case so neatly assembled. She told us the pattern, Karen's attempts to shield her son, was important. It gave motive and showed a history of enabling, not just a single lapse in judgment. Court was set. The headline suspects, Brad and the core group, were charged as adults on felony counts. The others faced juvenile proceedings. Their parents hired expensive lawyers and promised to fight. Comfortable defenses were already forming. Misled kids, harmless mistakes, a mother protecting her child. Karen would be center stage in that defense, ready to testify and reshape the story. Miss Davies ran the case like a clock. She started at the beginning and built up call, witness, footage step by step until the proof made sense. They played the 911 call we'd made the morning of the crash. Sam's voice calm and factual, the audio a chill-sounding record of what happened. Then the first responding officer took the stand. He described Brad's disorientation that morning, the failed field sobriety tests, and the discovery of a nitrous oxide canister in the car. Courtroom fell into silence as the officer's body cam footage played on the big screen. Karen Dawson's wild, exaggerated claims that my fence had somehow jumped out at her son looked ridiculous when seen alongside the truth. The jury leaned forward, stone-faced but attentive. Next came the dashcam video from the delivery van. Marcus confirmed it was authentic, and with the custodian of record's letter in hand, the evidence was locked in. The footage showed the boys staging their cars like it was a racetrack, then tearing down our quiet street, engines roaring. There was no room left for doubt. Then came the drone footage. Filmed from public airspace, it captured the crew sneaking into the HOA clubhouse late at night, working under cover of darkness. A thermal expert testified that the glowing heat signatures matched freshly driven performance engines. The net was tightening. Detective Miller followed, walking the jury through the sting operation step by step, from my first call to the frantic chase through the hardware store's garden section. He revealed the stolen license plates recovered from the boys' cars. Piece by piece, the case became airtight. Finally, the storage unit was unveiled. Photos of stolen tools, car stereos, and stacks of license plates filled the screen. And then the centerpiece of it all, the ledger. A handwriting expert confirmed beyond doubt that it was Brad Dawson's. Miss Davies read the entries aloud. Profits from stolen goods, winnings from street races. It painted Brad not as a follower, but as a ringleader. The defense tried to salvage sympathy, painting the boys as harmless kids who just loved cars. Their last card was Karen Dawson herself. She walked in wearing a conservative Navy suit, looking every bit the grieving, protective mother. Her lawyer drew on childhood stories, her voice quivered, and she played her role until Miss Davies stepped forward. Her cross-examination cut through the act like glass. "Mrs. Dawson, you've described your son as a gentle boy who fell in with the wrong crowd. But wasn't he the one keeping their books? Tracking their profits?" Karen's composure cracked. She stammered excuses. He was pressured. He was forced, but with no evidence. It was just words. Then came the HOA bombshell. The prosecution revealed records proving Karen herself had checked out a master key months before the arrests and never returned it. When pressed, she claimed she lost it. But board minutes showed no such report. The implication was clear. She hadn't lost it. She had handed it over. The silence in the courtroom was suffocating. Karen's lawyer sat useless. Her son buried his face in his hands. And Karen finally admitted the truth. She had been lying all along, just to shield Brad. But under oath, her lies crumbled. The jury didn't take long. Guilty. Brad and his crew faced probation, hundreds of community service hours, restitution for damages, and the biggest repayment check to me for the fence. A 5-year no-contact order sealed the deal. Within a week, a for sale sign appeared on the Dawsons' lawn. No one complained. In fact, the neighborhood breathed easier. At the emergency HOA meeting, Karen was voted out, replaced by George, the quiet accountant. Locks were changed, audits launched, and power shifted back where it belonged to the community. I didn't rebuild with cedar this time. We chose strong, black steel. At the corner where the Mustang once crashed, I set 2 heavy bollards deep in concrete. A silent message. Never again. Mike stopped by, knocked on the fence, and laughed. "Cole, this thing isn't jumping out at anyone." And he was right. The street slowly returned to what it should have been: kids riding bikes, neighbors chatting, dogs being walked. My wife asked if maybe we'd gone too far, but I thought of the lies, the danger, the crash, and shook my head. We did what we had to, and now it's safe. In my office, I keep one small frame on the wall, not a diploma, not a photo, but the receipt for towing away that first silver Mustang. A reminder that peace is worth fighting for. The fence stands. The bollards shine. The Dawsons are gone. And life moves forward. If this story grabbed you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to listen HOA Stories, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next jaw-dropping HOA battle. And tell me in the comments, do you think Karen was protecting her son or enabling him? Because here on Listen HOA Stories, the fences may be strong, but the stories are even stronger.